Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Stefan, and in this video I want to give you a full review of Michael Aaron's adult and standard piano course. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so, and make sure to check the notifications bell to never miss a new video. Also, I now offer online piano lessons, so if you're looking for one, there's going to be information in the description below. So some of you were asking me about these books, and I included them in some of my previous videos, the adult method books and so on, but let's talk a little bit more about them and see what's wrong with them, what's good about them, and what kind of structure they follow. So the Michael Aaron books, I've got two here. This one is the adult series and this is the standard series. And what you need to know about these books is that they are really old. They are from the 1940s, so more than 70 years old now. And obviously there's nothing wrong with that in the terms of knowledge, but it's a whole different approach we have now in piano education. Now, I don't want to say that standards have definitely dropped, but it seems like it from many things. So if you look at, for example, the ABRSM exams from 40 years ago, they seem to be much harder than what they are now. And if you look at method books from 50, 70 years ago, again, they seem to have a much steeper learning curve. And in one book, you learn as much as in 2-3 books in a modern method book. So that could mean many things. It doesn't necessarily mean that the standards have dropped. It could also mean that music is now more widely available and a lot more people can do it, and people don't necessarily do it as a profession anymore. If you think of an average adult piano beginner student, most of you are going to spend half an hour a day on piano, or sometimes just twice a week, an hour or half an hour. But in the olden days, if you had the money to actually learn an instrument, then you had to commit to it and practice for hours and hours. So maybe that's why these books are also much faster paced. And also self-learning or self-teaching wasn't really an option 50 or 100 years ago, because there were no resources, no internet, no audio backing tracks and so on. So you could only learn with a teacher. And obviously if you have a teacher, you can progress much faster. The book doesn't need to quite explain so much because you have a teacher who can explain all the things you won't find in the book. Now, when I look through, I used to teach a lot from this when I started teaching. However, I have never used the adult versions of these books, and I don't really use these anymore because I just feel like there are so many other method books. It's not necessarily a bad method book, but I have other ones which I prefer to Michael Aaron. But I still like it for some of the songs inside, and I can use it as a supplementary book for people who progress really fast and need more pieces to play. Or if somebody already has the book, then I'm really happy to go with it instead of making them purchase a different kind of series. Now, the adult version only has 2 books. It has book 1 and book 2. And that's where it finishes, whilst I wouldn't call this the kids edition, but the younger edition or the standard edition has 5 grades, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, 4, and 5. And it also has a primer. However, these grades do not correspond to the examination boards, like ABRSM grade 5 is not grade 5 Michael Aaron, and ABRSM grade 1 is not grade 1 here. It's just a grading of the books. Now, what I noticed just looking through the first book of each, the adult and the kids version, is that many of the songs overlap, but in the kids version, you've got words for the songs, whilst in the adult version, you have no words for any of the songs, and the titles change slightly as well. For example, there's a lullaby, and in the kids version, it says Sandman's Lullaby. So they try to make the titles more aligned with what kids would want to hear. But also the pace is very different. So the adult progresses much quicker than the 5 series books. Even the kids version, I feel like, is so much faster than, for example, Piano Adventures or Alfred's method. So I wouldn't really use this with small kids, maybe an older beginner or someone who has some previous piano knowledge. If I had to start a complete adult beginner, I just could never use this book because it basically goes through so many concepts just in the first page that there's no way someone would understand and be able to play those just by reading it. You need to practice how to put your hands on the keys. You need to practice where the notes are. You can't just read it once and then expect that you'll know it instantly and be able to play songs hands together. It just doesn't work like that. So if I had to choose between the two, I would still use this for the adults, because although there are a couple of drawings, but it's not really a childish book. It's not like Thompson's Easiest Piano Course. It's not like Me and My Piano. It's still totally suitable for adults, and this one has a more sane pace for the beginners nowadays. If you have previous piano knowledge and you're a very fast learner, then you can go with the adult one, but you'll need some outer help to progress with the book. Now, let's see some pros and cons for the adult book. As a con, I would say that the book is very thin. This one is only 60 pages for the first book and 60 pages for the second book, and that's where it finishes. And somehow I just don't believe that 120 pages are going to make you a pianist and you're ready to play Chopin and Beethoven and all these other sonatas. It's just simply not enough. Also, there are no supplementary books. You don't have a technique book. You don't have a theory book, a sight reading book, performance book. You don't have pop songs and Christmas songs, because that wasn't really a thing back then. So it's just a very dry kind of lesson book with some limited explanations. And the songs covered in the series are just classical and traditional and folk songs. So you don't even get much jazz or rag or, any kind of more popular genres. Now, if you look at 2 pages here, you can see the layout is actually quite nice. These have been re-engraved, but that's all the explanation you get for this piece, which is basically just a small description, but it doesn't tell you anything about these double voicings, how to approach them, the balance between the 2 hands, and so on. So you really need the help of a teacher or someone else who can explain all these things to you and point out what to watch out for in every new piece in the book. Also, there are no external resources, so you don't have any backing tracks or any online videos for these books. Now, a couple of good things about the book is that obviously it's very cheap. It's been there for a long time, so it must work. And you've got quite a few rhythm drills. Now on this page, for example, you can see the rhythm drill and it shows you the hand position for that specific song. And the rhythm drills are actually quite useful before you play a piece, because you can clap out the rhythm and then turn on to the notes. Now, the first book covers quite a lot. It covers time signatures of 4/4, 3/4, 2/4, 6/8. It covers the C major scale, G major, D major, F major, B flat major, and E flat major, but it doesn't cover any of the minor scales. So you're not actually going to play anything in minor until you get to the second book. The book covers extensively on articulation, dynamics, and expression marks, so you won't miss out on any of those: legato, staccato, loud, quiet, and so on, and lots of Italian terms. The book does deal quite a lot with chords, but you'll see that the approach to chords is very different in this book than, for example, in Alfred's or Piano Adventures, because it's a very old-fashioned approach. It's the same thing, you still learn your chords, but you're not going to name them the same way, and it just puts it right in front of you. On one page, it introduces the chords. On the next page, it shows you all 3 inversions: root position, first inversion, second inversion. And when you know nothing about chords, that's an awful lot of information in 2 pages. And then it just assumes that you know how to play chords from then onwards. So these are the things that I don't like in these books, that they are so quick and they really assume that once you read something on 1 page, you just know it. Whilst we know that in piano music, even when you play something for weeks, you might still need more practice and more understanding, and your hands might not necessarily do what your brain wants them to do. There are some technical exercises, mostly kind of finger drills and finger exercises similar to Hanon, kind of the old-fashioned ones. You can see here a finger drill. And you also have some, I wouldn't call them sight reading exercises, but you have these little patterns that you're supposed to read. As I said, the second book introduces the minor scales and also intervals, understanding intervals, and the pieces become much, much nicer and more complete, but also a lot harder. So by the end of this second book, I mean, the pieces do not really follow any kind of progressive structure. Some of the pieces in the beginning of the book are much harder than the ones at the end of the book. In general, there is some kind of progression, but you're going to jump between difficult and easy. I would say by the end of the book, you get to like grade 3 standard, because there is a prelude in A major by Chopin in the end of the book in the original form, and that's a grade 3 piece. And then you also have some Dvorak pieces. So that's the kind of difficulty you get at the end of the second piece. Lots of octaves, chords. So not beginner stuff. It's definitely intermediate by the time you get to the end of the second book. And again, I can't stress this enough. It's only 120 pages. And normally Piano Adventures gets you to grade 3 level by the end of the 4th book or 5th book. So you're going to go through primer, 1A, 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B, 4, and 5. So there's a lot more material to get through to understand all those concepts. Now, if you want to try Michael Aaron and you don't have any of these books, I would strongly urge you to get these ones, because it's just easier to grasp and easier to digest, and you don't need to necessarily play all the pieces in these books because some of them are a bit repetitive, but it's definitely easier to progress with this standard series, the graded one, than the adult one. And the pieces are just as suitable, and the explanations are there, and the pieces from book 2 are really nice and enjoyable, even some of them in the first book. But as I said so many times, you can't really expect to play very amazing pieces when you only know 5 notes in each hand. So it's just one of those things that with each method book, you just have to get through the first one to get to the nice stuff. Another thing to note about this series that I forgot to say is that, as you can see on the back, with each book, each lesson book, you also have a technique, a performance, a theory book as well. So you've got some supplementary books which really help with the other areas of piano playing that these books don't address, and they do not come with the adult version, and it's not like an all-in-one version like Piano Adventures or Alfred's. In one of my videos before, I said that these are available in the public domain. I'm sorry, that's not true. Somebody pointed it out in the description. For some reason, I thought the copyright expired, and I thought I saw them on IMSLP, but they are not available, so you have to buy these books if you want to use them. So this was my short review of Michael Aaron's piano course. I didn't want to go into too much detail about the inside, to go through every single page, but these were the most important things that I wanted to point out. Why this book is not as popular anymore as the modern versions, especially in the US. How you could use this still if you have it as a supplementary book or as a method book if you have some prior piano knowledge and you're a very fast learner and you can read music quite well already. If you have any questions about these books, leave them in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, subscribe for more.